Welcome, everybody, to Dear Asian Americans. Given all that is going on in the world, we wanted to take a pause from what we normally do on the show, which is to share the immigrant origin stories, our identity journey and evolution, into what we are doing for a living and our passions within our community, to really highlight those of us in our community who have taken it upon themselves to go beyond the call of duty and in whatever way, shape, or form that makes sense for them and in the situation that they are in, to bring a little bit of positivity to the world. So I wanted to take this week. Hopefully it is not many weeks, but we are starting today here on March 16th. I am your host of the show, Jerry Wan, and I really genuinely thank you for taking the time to tune in. Whether you are going about your daily work life, whether you are listening to this in the car or at home, working from home, thank you. If you are out there still working because you have to, thank you. By now, we hope that you have listened to experts, doctors, public health officials, politicians, your friends, your parents, anybody who is urging you to stay home. It's not about you, regardless of what age, what condition you are in right now. This thing is something we've never experienced before, so we have to do something that we've never done before, which is to stay the hell home if you can. For those people, our police, fire, medical people who have no choice but to go to work so that we can save as many lives. If not for you, do it for them. So on that note, what you'll hear from me in the coming days are, frankly, I think more authentic conversations with friends in our community who have, in their own way, as I mentioned, have decided to be a human being foremost and to give a little bit of themselves, a little bit of their work, their product, their expertise, whatever it may be. So if you are listening to this and you are one of those people, please reach out. I would love to talk to you. If you know of somebody within your community, we are hearing stories all over the place of restaurants giving away food, making deliveries for our older community members and our grandparents who cannot get out themselves, coaches and fitness instructors and DJs hosting all sorts of amazing digital events. Please let me know. I want to share it out with the world. We will get through this together. Today, on our first edition of the Helpers series of the Asian Americans, I want to welcome my friend John Lim. John Lim is the founder of a game that you may have played called AZNFLUSH, which is a fun drinking game. John, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jerry. I really appreciate you reaching out, and it's my honor to come in and share my story a little bit.
So let's, before we get to the game and sort of what you're doing in light of all the recent activity, share with us a little bit about you, man. Where are you from? What did you do before all this?
Yeah, so I'm a 25-year-old Korean-American entrepreneur, born and raised in Maryland to two South Korean immigrants. They moved over in about the 80s. They met in New York. Actually, I always thought it was such an interesting story about how they met. They were put together by a matchmaker. And I remember my dad would drive down from New York to Maryland to see my mom every Sunday after church. And then within, I think it was like 8 weeks, they decided they wanted to get married. He got deported back to Korea and then came back. And then, now we, I guess, have the classic happy American dream story of them owning, a restaurant in Baltimore and kind of putting me and my sisters through school. And then, after school, I went to Korea, taught English for about a year. But I'd always had a passion for entrepreneurship. And so at that time, started to put the foundation for my own business in. I was doing video production, and I would sell that as a service to businesses to help them grow. Have done freelance marketing consulting following that for about 3 years, and then finally decided to start my own brand and try my hand at that. And thankfully, it's been a pretty successful year so far.
So tell me more about that brand. I alluded to it earlier. Product name has the word Asian in it.
Yes.
And for those of you listening, it's not Asian, it's AZN, the way that or old school people like me used to spell it back when we had AOL, and when we used to type alternate uppercase, lowercase, and
Yeah.
when life was a lot easier and when life seemed now infinitely better and more carefree. Tell me about the journey of landing on a brand and a product that you felt that you'd be best to execute.
Yeah, it was an interesting process because, for the most part, it was my belief and even people around me that hey, it wasn't going to work out. It's a dumb card game, and that's kind of the atmosphere that I was in. But I still had a belief for it. Obviously, we're kind of having a moment right now. I mean, I know K-pop had a little bit of a moment like before, but now with BTS has really taken it to a whole nother level, and then also just Asians in Hollywood. Obviously, we have Crazy Rich Asians, which now has culminated in Parasite being so successful, and now Train to Busan, the second version, the sequel, is going to have U.S. release, which is so amazing. So it just felt like the right time to create something for us. At the end of the day, I always found most board games pretty unrelatable. Even if you think about like when you played Life as a kid, almost none of those things really was it relevant to anyone else? I mean, I didn't think it was really that relevant to.
Those same exact thoughts, John, are the reason why I started an Asian American podcast, because
Yeah,
I think when we hear the term general market, it's code for something else, right? So I think for those of us who've had a unique upbringing, particularly, whether you're Asian, Black, Brown, anything other than what, marketers would call general market or mainstream marketing, yeah, it does require and that nuance of, I used to get asked a lot, like, how could you not know that TV show? Didn't you watch it growing up? And I said, no, dude, I moved here when I was 8,
yeah.
so.
No, I had that with cable. Everyone, we never had cable. We just had the old fashioned antenna. So like people would talk about like Rugrats, and I don't even know the names of the shows I missed. But I grew up watching like Friends and stuff that was on the free networks. But
Mhm.
yeah, I always had that disconnect with people over media.
So how did you get over that? Most entrepreneurs have experience and never actually goes away is the naysayers and dare I say well-intentioned folks, right? Like, I'm only saying this because I care about you, but I don't think it's going to work, dude.
Yeah, I think for the same reasons my mom would tell me not to do it. Um, yeah, I inherited that from her too. I was, she's stubborn, I'm stubborn. So it was one of those things where like, you know what, actually, I love and respect you, mom, but this is something that I really feel like I have to do. And I think that comes from my upbringing. So, I think tragedy really does shape and form people into, well, your life's marked by tragedies. But my dad ended up passing away super early, when I was 13 years old. And I felt like I went through like my midlife crisis then because I just was thinking like, well, what does it really mean to die? And that really, that thought, I was obsessed with that thought for, I don't, it must have been 7, 8 years till I like could really fully grasp what that meant. But for the most part, it kind of just put this fire in me to say, if one day I'm going to die, I got to, you know, try and do the things that I've always wanted to. Like let's make this life that I have right now awesome. That's kind of the way I approach everything.
Hey, John, thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy to talk about tragedies and particularly your father, even more so on a podcast that is rather wide and public. So I really appreciate you for doing that. And I think it's especially relevant now.
Yeah.
Um, we are thinking about death in a different way. I do agree with you that I think once you accept the fact that you're going to die, then you start to live life differently. So that must have been a bit of a different, I guess, experience in helping your mom and your siblings go through this as a teenager and in your adolescent years. Did you then have a little bit more of clarity on what you wanted to do growing up? And I'll frame the context and, the stereotypes I find fascinating of if your mom could pick your career, what would you be today versus what you're doing now? And,
Hmm.
we probably miss 95% of that overlap.
Right. Yeah.
So was there, still a little bit of pressure of, hey, this is what you still should do? I mean, and tell me a little bit more about how she views your profession today, which I don't know how she would have reacted to that.
So my mom was always very entrepreneurial. You kind of just have to be crafty when you don't have a college degree in this country when you move over. While she would have preferred to have me follow my sister's example, she ended up becoming a doctor. I ended up learning from my mom's passion for her business and just seeing the way that she treated her customers and the way she was able to really put us in a situation that we could all go to school and be comfortable. And so nowadays, I think she looks back and particularly with what's going on now, and I think she's proud of me. I mean, now it's kind of odd now because she does work for Asian Flush, which has been such a blessing because she's able to stay at home and be with my sister's kids.
Wait, she works for the brand?
Yeah, she's our warehouse manager. She hand packs every single game and ships it out to everybody. And as a result, she doesn't have to go work at the restaurant she used to. Honestly, she gets more out of it than I do with the brand.
That is awesome, dude. I had no idea. So you went through a difficult time, eventually leading you to make a silly drinking game called Asian Flush.
Yes.
And now at the end of it, you are now able to not only support yourself, but to provide your mom a better life.
Yeah, isn't that no? That's the that's the
That's
goal.
that's
That's
I
what it's about.
man, that is, hey, for all the entrepreneurs out there, hire moms, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, but put her on payroll. I don't, there's got to be a way for us to really, really cool.
yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about the product, before the last few weeks of
hmm
what's the game about, and I am most curiously about your R&D process.
Yeah, so the game, it's each pack is 110 cards, more or less. We've had some, expansion packs with different people, and they've had more or less, but 110 is the base amount. And it kind of just explores the subtleties of being Asian American. There's a card in the deck that says, if you're too white for Asians, but too Asians for whites, take 7 sips. And to me, that really symbolizes just having this third culture that's in between being Asian and in between being American, and how that kind of shapes our everyday existence. And I like to explore like the little things. I like to explore having the stinky lunch at school. I like to explore your mom saying, "Hey, did you gain weight?" But then 2 minutes later, like trying to feed you all the food in the world. Um, Little things
Yeah.
like that, stuff that we take for granted. And I also like to try and make some sort of point. Like I know one of the cards is ways that Asian parents show they love you. For me, which
Mm.
was like if I liked a snack, she would bring back like the Costco wholesale version of it. That was just her way.
So true, man.
Yeah.
So true.
And so the game's full of that. It's all relatable, true, and while you're having fun, and sometimes we laugh at each other. A lot of it's about laughing with each other too.
Agreed. So something that I have, paid special attention to and was extremely mindful of in creating this show, with a very big, broad name like Asian Americans was, how do we make sure everybody feels included?
hmm
Because depending on what map you look at, there's anywhere between 30 something and almost, 50 something countries that are technically in Asia. Language, religion, customs, so different. How did you manage to strike a balance where you found a product that would be widely relatable?
Yeah, I mean, it is something that we are still trying to do better. Um, just because it is quite hard to try and make something that rings true for everybody. There are significant differences I've learned through this game, in particular, even between different types of Asian people. I mean, I knew there were, but I just didn't realize what that actually looked like on a day to day basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so look, I take my customer feedback very seriously. I get to meet a lot of people. Thankfully, to the game spread, there are a lot of people that are out there looking out for us and wanting us to release better content, and for them too. And so it looks like just having honest conversations about what people think about the game, playing it with them and thinking about ways to slowly improve it over time. At first, when we first launched, it was honestly a shot in the dark, but after its success, I do feel a responsibility and obligation to make these future packs better and have them ring more true for more people.
I am going through a parallel experience, and that's sort of the plan here too, right? Like
Hmm.
realizing I knew it was going to be a challenge, and I think I have thought about, and hopefully, the idea of this show evolves into smaller, more niche based shows, if you will, that speak
Hmm.
to a very specific or a unique experiences that depending on how you came to this country, right? So some of our parents came here on our free will. Many of our parents did not. Even how you came here, we talk about the immigrant experience when we talk about
Right.
Asian American stuff so much that we neglect the refugee population. We
Right.
neglect the adoption population because they certainly had no choice in coming here. No, we did not come here because there was opportunity. We came here to survive. So I think it makes for a fascinating discussion, and I am so glad to hear that you are continuing to evolve and listen to customer feedback, John. This is amazing. So let's talk about now, man.
Absolutely.
What did you decide to do, and how did you come to that decision?
Yeah. So over the weekend, I've just been thinking, if I feel again a responsibility and obligation to do what I can with this platform that I feel really has been gifted to me. I know there's a lot of hard work, and I'm not giving myself enough credit, but I do really feel lucky that Asian Flush is in the position that it's in. I will always try, whether it's Asian Flush or even just myself, to give back. I think that's really important. Maybe that's just how I was raised, but I really feel an obligation to help people out if possible. So it looked like last week, I was trying to what I was trying to do is try to increase foot traffic to these local stores, but as the news has developed, well, now we're okay. Let's stay inside. And I realized when you stay inside and everything's being canceled, you need something to do for fun. Like no matter what, even in times like this, it's still important to have something to do that you can enjoy. So I decided to create a social distancing pack, um, which was a 50 card pack and all about just various things that we're doing that are much different. Like I started to realize like there's these little jokes that were coming up. Like I noticed people were doing elbow bumps instead of shaking hands. We've got Everyone's got that one friend who's sharing all of the coronavirus news like constantly. Like you might be that friend in your neighborhood, but everyone's got that friend. So I made some cards about that, and there's a bunch of other ones. But some of these topics were coming up, so I decided to make it, and then we decided to do a digital download because it needed to come out now. We can't wait for it to get manufactured. So
Right.
I spent the Saturday writing it, released it later that day, selling it for $2.99, with all proceeds going to help the elderly who are getting impacted by this the most.
How has the reaction been?
It's been amazing. I've been lucky to meet people through the business or just the experience of running this business over the past year, and they've been helpful. They've posted about it, they've shared it, and they've just been such strong supporters. I can't thank them enough. So I'm going to shout them out directly. Ty Tran at Asians Never Die posted for us. There's another page, Growing Up Viet. They posted for us too. But it's the response has been crazy. We've been getting so many notes from people, even people that are on the front lines. There was a girl, Alyssa, or woman, Alyssa, and she works for Meals on Wheels. And
Hmm.
she was saying that a lot of the people that she's supporting are like really worried about where their next meals are going to come. And, everyone's out there stocking up on toilet paper, but no one's really looking out for those people. So getting that note from her just really reminded me why we do it. So, yeah, the response has been crazy. And, obviously, this is kind of how we are doing this now. So
The amount of digital community that many of us are building. Maybe it is a culmination of a lot of different things, but I'm excited for, I think, given all the stuff that we're going through now this week and hopefully not for too long, but I really am grateful for people like you, people like Ty, a lot of people to shout out who are, doing our best to have created communities and things that, help us become more human in times like this. Even since Saturday, since you created this, and I think it's going to be a growing change across the country and perhaps across the world of guidance on even smaller gatherings. So, is this something that friends need to huddle around a living room table or a dining table and play together? Or, is it something that can be done via Zoom and digitally.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a weird way to play a drinking game, but given what we're going through, maybe not so crazy.
Yeah, you know what? I always imagined, even with just the regular game, that it was something that you would play in person. But we have long distance relationship couples. We have families that are, overseas, and actually, a lot of people play this game through FaceTime. Because there's no direct gameplay related. You just have to read what's on the card,
Uh huh.
and play that way. Most of them are pretty easy. There's no like chess pieces that you have to move physically. It's all can be read. So, and even some of it involves storytelling and whatnot. So it absolutely can be played online.
What an interesting time we're going through, and I am glad to have found you, John. I had started following you on Instagram a few weeks ago with hopes
Mm-hmm.
of having you on as a normal platform guest. And as soon as I saw the news that you share that you created this new
Mm-hmm.
product to help, help people, I don't know, man. It's just, even if it's just 30 minutes of an excuse to see friends digitally.
Right.
Um, and then there are, apartments or houses of friends who are bunker down, and perhaps this encourages a different conversation. The expansion packet sounds like it is not necessarily an Asian American thing, but something that is applicable broadly across so many people. That this is a time where I hope that when we look back at it in history, that really shifts our conversation on what it means to be a citizen of the world, peeling away every single identity, man generated identity that has caused much division in the world prior to all this happening. And I'm grateful for you, man. It's
Thank you.
exciting. It's exciting, man. As a fellow Asian American dude on his own entrepreneurial pursuits, it is really exciting to see, particularly younger folks, younger brothers, jump on
Hmm.
the train earlier. I worked for other people for a very long time, and I went to grad school and worked for other people for even a little bit longer than that too. So, it's been a process. And I think when we come to the question of, once, I think step one is to realize that there are things that are necessary or needed within our community that only we can do. And those are culture specific storytelling things like this podcast or John's
Hmm.
game. And then two, which takes people varying degrees of time, even decades, is to finally come to the realization it's got to be us, because we're going to be the best at telling our stories, with the
Yeah.
nuances of the interactions with our loving and very well intentioned mothers who might say funny things, or, your story about the snacks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or, yeah, or, once they have an idea you like something, then that's the only thing,
Yeah.
you like a brand of a shirt, and the next time she goes to the mall, she brings back three, and you're like, oh, try all these. And I think it's really exciting. And, particularly for me as a dad of two myself now, it's, you start to realize a lot of those things that you didn't before. And so as we go through this thing called life together, and knowing that better days are ahead in the long run, and that we will become all better for it, I am grateful for you, John. I know we've taken a bit of a pivot with this format, but
Hmm.
I still do want to end our show together the way that I've ended our other shows, which is to go back to the theme of the show, Dear Asian Americans. It's a theme that I came up with because I think we needed to talk to each other more, to write each other letters to help support, celebrate, and inspire each other. So help us close out the show and finish this letter. Dear Asian Americans.
Wow. Put me on the spot. Dear Asian Americans, I hope you're out there. Um, just I hope you're able to go to sleep at night and be happy and okay with that. Hope you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and ready to go. Um, Hope you can, forgive your parents for, I've heard that, that there are some legitimate traumas that have been caused by them, but they only were out of love and to, give you the best opportunity for you to succeed. At least that's how they intended to do it. Um, and I hope you spend the time to get to know your parents as people, not just as your parents, especially as we get older. And remember to always give back, whether it's to Asian community or to people more broadly, especially nowadays. I have a feeling we're going to need it. So yeah. Also, yeah. Thanks, Jerry. Thank you for having me on this. My first podcast. I don't know if you could tell.
No, no, you are a natural, John, and I think, look, I think part of what brings me so joy is for moments like this. Fun fact: I've actually never been a guest on a podcast, and I've now produced somewhere north of 70 shows in total.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest aha moments for me in creating this was not only are there not enough Asian Americans in the host chair of podcast, there is a alarming lack of representation of people who look and sound like us in the guest chair. The fact that I, through this medium and opportunity can give so many people their first opportunity to showcase the work that they've done and to celebrate it and to, to the best of our ability to throw all the support we can at it. That's something I'm happy to have, my kids and my family know and remember me by. So yeah, man, it's fun. You're doing even a more amazing job by creating a game that, while in fun and jest and jovial, brings us and encourages conversation about our generally shared experiences. And if not and if those aren't shared, an opportunity for us to learn about our friends and family members that we otherwise would not have. And you hired your mom, which is, dude, that is
Yeah.
wow.
The tables have turned.
Hey. Let us know where we can go to learn more about you, learn more about Asian Flush, and to get the new expansion pack.
Yes. So if you go to AsianFlush.com, that's AZNFLUSH.com. You can see all of our current packs. You can see the social distancing pack. If you sign up for our newsletter there, you'll get news about all the new things that we release, and you'll get to see when we do finally donate the money, which I'm really excited to do. And I'm going through the process of researching where we donate that money very carefully now. If you want more behind the scenes looks, you can follow me at Where's John Gone or at Asian Flush Game, and yeah, those are the main ones.
Awesome, man. Hey, I want to thank you again. We turned around this from, hey, I got a crazy idea to recording in record time. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you for your energy and your excitement here as well.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Let's do it again sometime.
Hey, when this all settles, I look forward to playing Asian Flush in person with you and drinking you under the table.
All right, challenge accepted.
Let's hope that day comes sooner than later for a lot of us, John. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to this special edition, Helpers edition of Dear Asian Americans. I hope that you are safe. I hope you continue to take precautions, stay inside, text your friends, call your friends, call your family members, and especially if you have a doctor, nurse, pharmacist, police officer, fire person, EMT professional, politicians, anybody in your network who is working right now because of us and to keep us safer, to keep us the safest that we possibly can. They need our support. They need our love. We hope that we can go back to some sort of normalcy as soon as we can. But in the meantime, I am going to do my damn best to try to share as many of these positive helping stories in our community and beyond as much as I can. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today. Let me know if you want to come on the show, if others want to come on the show. Please, if you found John's story entertaining, helpful, or anything, and if you have a couple friends who you think would like to hear it, share it with them. The podcast is available across all the platforms. Go visit John's game, support him. None of the expansion pack money is going into his pocket. It's all going to a great cause. We need more people like John in our community. So I want to thank him again. Come back tomorrow. Come back every day this week on the 16th. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Stay safe. We will get through this together. And dear Asian Americans, I will see you next time.